Hi there, thank you for tuning in. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. This is your one-stop guide to all property investments in the country. We heard that big budget announcement and we're still trying to figure out how it affects our ability to buy homes. We have a wonderful panel in the studio with us who are going to continue to look at the fine print in the finance bill and tell us if it makes our dream home any more of a reality. If you have feedback, write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. You can also tweet any question you have to me. My Twitter handle is at the bottom of your screen as well. Joining us in the studio right now, Ravi Ahuja, Executive Director at Cushman & Wakefield. Ravi, thank you for coming in. And of course, I'm so glad to welcome Niranjan Hiranandani, co-founder and MD of the Hiranandani Group. Niranjan, thank you so much for joining us. I remember we had a chat 3 weeks ago when you talked about what you'd like to hear out of the budget. You did mention the fact that you want the industry to, sort of have a positive light from the government's point of view. Did that happen? Are you happy with what you've heard so far?
I think the finance minister has definitely told us that real estate is an important one, because for 4 budgets I didn't hear anything on real estate whatsoever. It was almost that roti kapda makan was forgotten. So I think it was glad to see that the finance minister looked at housing in a serious way, looked at urban development, metro cities, and also looked after the tax deduction in respect of home loans for individuals from 1.5 to 2 lakhs. Not enough, but nevertheless somewhere he paid attention to the home buyer, and I think that is going to make a lot of difference in the long run.
Ravi, I want to bring you in here very quickly. One of the things that I remember Niranjan also mentioned was REITs, and the fact that we wanted REITs to come in. Now it's come in, and this is something I want our audience to understand. REITs will invest in fully ready property, which they will rent out, and that the rental return will be the return to the investors. Is this a good move? Will this in any way create transparency within the industry? Is this what the industry had asked for?
Yeah, sure. I think REITs is a very important tool for the industry, and we've been asking for this. The only impediment so far, given the white paper which the government had circulated earlier, was for us to note that we required and we had requested for tax concessions, which I think the budget has clarified, the finance minister has clarified that there will not be a double taxation and there will be a tax pass-through status given to REIT. So in that sense it clarifies and motivates the investors as well as the REIT special purpose vehicles which will own these assets for stable income. Now we could easily compare these to the mutual funds, which are giving stable income in terms of dividend payouts to the investors. And therefore we're looking at individual owners who can participate and invest in the REIT and participate in the real estate so-called boom or so-called progress in the economy.
There was also a mention there of infrastructure trusts as well. What sort of how do you think this infrastructure trust is going to manifest? What is it going to look like? Is it going to look a lot like the REITs system?
The infrastructure would mean those investments made by individuals through the infrastructure vehicles in the REIT would mean income which would be generated from those infrastructure projects. So it will definitely be more long term in nature and probably will attract more tax rebates, hopefully.
Okay, all right. Niranjan, let's talk about REITs. You were really positive, I remember 3 weeks ago. You gave me almost an assurance that we'd definitely hear something in the budget, and we did. Is this what you had hoped for? What sort of a change do you think this will make to the real estate industry? We had a conversation some time ago with other analysts about how it is going to create a very positive rental market and a very clean rental market within our cities. From your point of view, what else is going to change?
I think there are several changes which are going to happen. First of all, it's going to bring up a lot of liquidity to those people who have got rental assets. A lot of properties all over the country, DLF in Delhi, Bangalore, a lot of IT, Mumbai, a lot of infrastructure has been lent out by various companies as well as developers on long-term basis. This could become an extremely useful to be liquidated and create liquidity in the company. So I think that's the first positive sign. The second is that there is an assured return, because as Ravi just mentioned, they've got a lock-in period. I mean, you have to have 90% of the assets rented out. So the person gets an assured return plus capital appreciation at the end of the day. So the big thing is that here you have an assured return on the basis of rental income, plus at the end of the story, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, you get a huge capital increase return because of inflation. Property values will go up, and in a period of 8 to 10 years, you're going to get probably the property value will be twice the number or thrice the number of what it exists today. So an Indian REIT, as distinguished from an international REIT, will be far more attractive to the international investor. The third point is that there is going to be a lot of long-term funds which will come into the market. Earlier, pension funds and others were not interested in India, but because they were not getting secured returns in terms of it, which is what pension funds desire. So we are going to get that, and it is my guesstimate that at least by the end of the year or by March, subject to stamp duty waivers to be given by the states, I think we should get more than $10 billion. This is my statement last week, and I go by it.
$10 billion there. Niranjan, I also want to ask you this very quick question. We heard a lot about infrastructure corridors, manufacturing corridors. Chennai was mentioned, Bangalore was mentioned, there was talk about Ahmedabad, Lucknow. We obviously know of the Mumbai-Delhi corridor as well. Most of these places are places where you have projects running right now. Which location do you think will be the most bullish over the next few years given the infrastructure announcements?
Now what has happened is they have now talked about north-south, east-west corridors like Delhi-Mumbai corridor, which is Japanese funded, which actually is going to be drivers of economic growth around the corridors. So you will get power, you will get electricity, you will get road, you will get transport, you will get railway, communication to ports, etc. And these are expected to increase the GDP of the country by more than 2%, just these corridors, economic corridors. So you'll have industry, manufacturing, employment, residential, etc., that will happen. Now, if you create more and more corridors, they will cause employment to take place. That is a very big plus which is looked after. So what we've really lost in terms of giving up these special economic zones, I think the government wants to make up by creating these corridors and driving economic growth, and especially manufacturing. In the last 5 years, manufacturing is just lost. We've lost it to China, we've lost it to the rest of the world, we have not given an impetus. I think what they're looking for is a return to that. And the last is that by creating infrastructure, National Highways, Mr. Nitin Gadkari has announced that he wants to make 44 kilometers a day. Every single day, 44 kilometers. By the end of the year, that's his target. Just now we are on 4 kilometers a day. I think that's a very, very, very ambitious program. But if he achieves it, I think the network of roads itself is going to cause consumption of cement, consumption of steel, employment, etc. And of course, because you will be speeding up the travel time, etc., along with the train corridors that we are creating, the economy is going to become much stronger. And if Piyush Goyal can manage the power situation as he has promised, I think we are going to see a different nation in the next 5 years. Best of luck to the government, best of luck to Narendra Modi, of course, for that. But having said, to answer your question specifically, the idea is to create a great driver for economic growth by creating industrial corridors which is anticipated to compete with the rest of the world. That's the ambition.
That's a great answer, Niranjan, but you didn't pick a city for me. Would that be Chennai or would that be Ahmedabad then?
No, I don't think it will be any one of them. I think what they will choose is a periphery of most of the metro and big cities. So I would say a Gandhinagar would be Ahmedabad, a Panvel and Alibag would be Mumbai, a periphery of Pune would be there. You'd get a Mysore, you'd get a Surat, you'd get a Vadodara, and you'll get many such cities. I don't think you'll have 20, you'll probably have 40, but they'll probably have to pick and choose 20 which they like most or love most or they want to favor most. But in metro cities, around metro cities, it would be the fastest to create new townships because they would ride on the others, and the infrastructure creation would not be as difficult as it would be in very remoter areas.
All right, we're going to have a conversation with Ravi about his favorite metro in a little while, but I have a question for Niranjan that's coming from one of our viewers. Niranjan S. Swaminathan has written in, he's a viewer of the show. He tells us he booked a flat at Hirko Palace Gardens in Chennai in May 2011 with a value of 50 lakh rupees. He says because of the dispute right now between the promoters of Hirco and yourself, the project has been stalled for 3 years. He's going to move to Chennai soon and he was hoping to live in that apartment. He wants to know now what the status is of the apartment and when you think it might be completed.
I think, I don't know which building his apartment is, but I believe it should be done in 2 years. We are starting this project somewhere in July and August. We've just taken it over from HDFC through the SURFACE route, and we hope that we will be able to keep up these commitments in a period of about 2 years' time. I know it is delayed, I'm sorry for that, but I had no alternative because of the disputes created by Hirco PLC. We had no alternative, and I was removed 2 years ago or 3 years ago, as he must be knowing, and I had no real control on that project, but I have taken over control of the Chennai project recently, about 2.5 months ago, and we are hoping to put it online by August or September, and within 2 years, depending on the building, some of the buildings would be ready next year, but depending on which building he is, I think in 2 years time we should be able to see that he is put into place. My apologies to him for the dispute.
Niranjan, in the meantime, for those investors and buyers who are waiting for the projects to be completed, are you offering them any sort of compensation?
We are not offering them any compensation, but we can have a look at his problems individually. Those who want to occupy, we can look at it very soon. In about 30 days time, we will have a fine help desk which will look into problems like this of people who actually want to move in quickly.
All right. So is it fair for me to then say if there's a viewer out there who's watching right now who wants help with your Chennai project or any project with the Hiranandanis, you can write to us and we'll put you in touch with the company and with the help desk?
Sure.
All right, so you heard it on the show. If you have any issues with the project, get in touch with us. Email ID is at the bottom of your screen. We'll put you in touch with the folks at Hiranandani who will help you out if you have any issues. Niranjan, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We look forward to staying in touch. Good luck. All right, we're going to take a very quick break, but when we come back, we'll have some investment options in Hyderabad. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. Thank you so much for staying with us. Email ID is at the bottom of your screen. So is the Twitter handle. Joining me in the Delhi studio right now is Jayashree Kurup, Head of Content and Research at Magic Bricks. Thank you for coming in, Jayashree. And of course, Ravi Ahuja is still in the studio in Mumbai with me. Now, before we go any further, we've had some confusion over the last week or so about the change in the tax treatment of long-term capital gains tax when you buy and sell homes. What we've done is that we've clarified all of that and put together a quick report so you can take a look. Looking to sell your existing house and buy another for your growing family? There are some changes in the laws of capital gains that you should know about. As per the earlier tax provisions, long-term capital gains arising from the sale of a home is exempt from tax under Section 54. If the property has been held for 3 years and the gains arising from the sale were reinvested in one or more residential property in India or overseas.
Budget provisions now require that the new house that is acquired by the individual who earns capital gain under 54 is invested in a house in India and is invested only in buying or constructing one house rather than more than one house. And if he does buy more than one house, the exemption will be restricted based on the acquisition of one house only, and that too in India.
With the new restrictions, experts feel the government is trying to deter investors from buying property overseas, given the current account deficit. The government also seems to be trying to deter people from investing most of their savings in real estate.
Probably there were some instances where a person would invest in one real estate, being a house, hold it for 3 years long term, sell it, and then again invest in 2 or 3 new houses. Because the existing provisions and even the new post-budget provisions do not have any requirement that it must be a self-occupied house, even real estate investments which were being rotated by people tended to happen to some extent because of the tax benefit that was available. Of course, there is a big attempt to divert savings into financial instruments.
It's too early to gauge the impact this move will have on moving savings into financial instruments. But for now, this will put the spanner in the works of families who plan to sell one home and move into 2 adjoining homes for more space. All right, so long-term capital gains tax. If you have any more questions about tax treatment of homes or property, write to us onto our email ID. I want to bring both of our guests in. This was a conversation we were having with Niranjan Hiranandani before he left. All of the changes that are going to happen, and I want to ask you all both about a couple of specific cities, and the one that I really want to talk about is Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad will get a bullet train that links it to Mumbai. Ahmedabad is a nodule on the Mumbai-Delhi corridor. What does this mean for the city? What does it mean? Of course, there's a gift city, which is what we're being told, a blueprint of the smart city. What does this mean for Ahmedabad?
Yeah, so I think Ahmedabad has always been a dark horse in terms of the population it has, and it comes very close to the kind of metro characteristics that as a city it possesses. Having said that, we have always seen Ahmedabad as a prospective ITITS destination, given the availability and the catchment of the kind of talent pool that it possesses. But of late, we have over the last couple of years learned that IT companies going into Ahmedabad have actually faced difficult situation and challenging times with recruiting and particularly retaining that talent. Ahmedabad is more like the Gujarati community is more entrepreneurial rather than white collar workforce, and therefore it becomes a little challenging. But having said that, I think Ahmedabad still retains all the characteristics. The gift city, which was the brainchild
so it comes down to this then, Ravi. What is Ahmedabad's ability to attract talent? Because if the local population tends to be entrepreneurial and we're looking at ITITES and the gift city, you're hoping that people will move to Ahmedabad to work there. What is the possibility of that happening over the next 4 years or so?
I think the kind of quality of housing there has particularly lacked, and if that improves and the civic amenities over there improve, which we are seeing many of the other cities have really moved miles apart and miles away from the quality of infrastructure, be it social or civic, and the quality of housing, and therefore the quality of living per se. And therefore if that improves, the migration will then become a motivation, and I think the city needs to work on that first, and then it will definitely see a lot of migration happen.
Jayashree, if I were to ask you to compare the prospects right now between Ahmedabad and on the other side a Vijayawada or a Vizag, which was also, I mean, we know that that entire area got a lot of mentions as well. There's an SEZ in that area in Kakinada. Where do you think, there's more potential at this point?
I would place my bets on Vijayawada and Visakhapatnam. You see, you can't force fit IT into any city, and we've seen this in many cities, Chandigarh being a typical example. The workforce in the south are typically the best for IT and ITES, and that's why the southern cities have all done fairly well. If you look at Gujarat, to my mind, has education and manufacturing as the two main drivers. I agree with Ravi that you do need good quality housing, but we have seen pockets of good quality housing coming up. The SG Highway, these satellite, these are all places where new development has been coming in, and it is still an affordable city. But if you think that because IT and ITES drove cities like Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad and so on, I don't think Ahmedabad's intrinsic value is as an IT city. It has education as a very strong driver, and it has manufacturing, and manufacturing can do well there. So actually you have to fit the city with its profile and not try and bring something from the outside. I don't think that works very well.
All right, so let's read between the lines here a little bit. There was a lot of push for manufacturing per se in this budget. We heard the finance minister mention it over and over again. Even after the budget, he talked about how he's going to be pushing housing, he's going to be pushing manufacturing, he's going to be pushing infrastructure. So right now, should we be focusing still on the services in the IT-driven markets, or should we now turn our focus to the manufacturing markets?
I think these are two independently and parallelly running so-called economies of the within the business economy. So I think manufacturing is clearly lagged behind, like Niranjan Bhai was just mentioning, and for years together we did not see much, particularly even in the SEZ side, which the finance minister clearly said he wants to revive the SEZ, and SEZ, when he revives, it will be both for manufacturing as well as the IT sector, in my view. And when you talk about these industrial development, And when you see him linking these industrial corridors with the smart cities, well connected by transport, you kind of get a feel that there is a master plan for a lot of holistic development which the government is planning for. And if we see that take place and take shape with the infrastructure boost which they want to provide, I think it's going to be fabulous for infrastructure and for real estate both, because real estate thrives on infrastructure.
I also want one view from each of you on the city of Hyderabad. They found no mention in the budget. But of course, we saw the Simandra region, and that's because we know the government of Simandra is an ally of the centre right now. What do you think this means for Hyderabad and for the Telangana area?
I think Hyderabad, being right at the center of the country in terms of its location round about there, and has always been a dark horse in terms of, so far there has been setbacks politically, and now which the clouds have cleared on. We've always been talking about it last 6 months since the Telangana issue has been resolved, that things will improve. I think the smart cities again will see a mention and will see some presence in Andhra Pradesh as a whole, and in and around the peripheral locations of the Hyderabad city we will have 1 or 2 of them. That means only good things. The prices are still low, the FAR is unlimited, so one can create world-class infrastructure if planned well, and that means it will go a long way with respect to real estate development.
All right. In fact, we have a question on Hyderabad. Kapa has written in, he wants to buy an independent house in Hyderabad with a budget of 30 to 35 lakh rupees. Please give me a few locations that are close to the IT industry. Jayashree, we know that Hyderabad is underpriced right now, but 30-35 lakh rupees independent home, is that doable at all?
No, I don't think so. Not near the IT corridor. I think he should go for apartments, because he should be able to get about 1,000 to 1,200 square feet apartment. But independent houses, I don't think along the IT corridor his budget is sufficient.
All right, we're going to take a very quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about Bangalore. Now, we know that ITES found no mention in the budget whatsoever. The government is going to focus on manufacturing. What does that mean for an IT-driven market like Bangalore City? That's on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. Thank you for staying with us. Ravi Ahuja and Jayashree Kurup are still with us, helping us make smart decisions when it comes to buying homes. Now, we have to talk about Bangalore, because every time we're talking about a macro view on all of the markets in the country, we always bring up Bangalore. Jayashree, very quick question to you. Again, there wasn't too much talk about the services industry, but does Bangalore still remain one of the strongest markets for the next 5 to 10 years in your view?
Absolutely, absolutely. You asked about Hyderabad a little while ago. It's the same logic. When there have been huge investments by large corporates around the world into a city, that city has a momentum of its own, and I think that momentum will carry it through. I don't think there was any need to give special incentives to IT or ITES for either Hyderabad or Bangalore to continue with the momentum. I think the very power of the investments will take it through, and these are steady, strong markets. I expect them to continue.
In fact, Ravi, we have a question from one of our viewers. Vikram Dugal has written in. He's looking to buy property as an investment with a time horizon of 3 to 5 years. His budget is 50 to 70 lakh rupees, and he shortlisted the following projects. Now, his first option is Super Tech Mikasa off Tanisandra Road. His second option is Ozone Urbana. Now, he also wants to know if it makes sense to consider a plotted development, the Arat Breeze plot, which is in Arnikal Road. He wants to know of all of these options, which one is the best. Should he consider the residential apartment or the plotted development?
Yeah, I think when you talk about plots in Bangalore, clearly one has to go with a reputed developer, and plots have their own challenges in terms of the developer delivering the infrastructure which he is promising, be it roads, electricity, water, etc. And therefore, unless the developer, we have names like Shobha, Prestige, they are quite reputed. But otherwise, you have to be careful. Coming to the apartments, I think between Supertech and Ozone, our research shows that probably the Ozone Urbana is a much preferred project. A, it's a better brand. B, it's closer to the airport. And we've seen some of the infrastructure around the airport really develop, including the Trumpet flyover of the airport, and it's very close to the main Bellary Road. So I think these are some of the factors that will pull investment and future appreciation here in this particular project. Yeah.
All right, unfortunately, we're completely run out of time on this show. But remember, it's not just about what we hear being announced in the budget. It's about what happens through the year and the continuous efforts of both the state and the central government. So that's what we'll do on the show here. We'll keep an eye on everything for you so you can come back week after week. Jayashree and Ravi, thank you so much for helping us out this week and answering all of our questions. Thank you for watching. Stay with ET Now.